the rounds in the trades, Star Trek IV fell apart behind the scenes. The investors that had put money on the table took it back. Star Trek without the selling point of Chris Hemsworth was bad. Star Trek without Chris Pine, whom they had taken for granted would be there, was untenable. Although this never made the press, we heard rumors that other principal cast members also dropped out, and soon director S.J. Clarkson also moved on. She went on to direct the pilot for Blood Moon, the Game of Thrones prequel series HBO decided to cancel on account of it being too woke. On November 19th, Variety broke the scoop that Noah Hawley had been tapped to write and direct the next Star Trek movie. The article reads, "Though plot details are being kept under wraps, sources tell Variety that the next Star Trek is expected to see Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban, and Zoe Saldana returning to man the USS Enterprise. J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot will return to produce, with Hawley also producing through his 26 Keys production banner. This will serve as the fourth movie in the cinematic series and is separate from another Star Trek pick that Paramount is developing with Quentin Tarantino producing and Mark L. Smith writing. The studio had tried to launch the fourth film last year with S.J. Clarkson directing and Chris Hemsworth joining the cast to reprise the role of Pine's father. That film was shelved when deals could not be reached, but the studio is hoping that this attempt will be more successful, with a different plot than the one Hemsworth turned down. Let's take a look at what this actually means. To begin with, note that like with the defunct S.J. Clarkson helmed version, this is not a formal announcement. Instead, the studio has fed this news directly to Variety, who even points out that the studio is hoping that this attempt will be more successful with a different plot than the one Hemsworth turned down. What this means is that as of now, Bad Robot and Paramount don't have the funds to make Noah Hawley's Star Trek IV, nor are the cast on board. Sources tell Variety Chris Pine and his crew are expected to be back, which is code for that as of this moment, they have not signed on. About the cast, there are two complicating factors here, one of which is scheduling. Having the entire cast available at the same time may prove challenging for the foreseeable future, as Zoe Saldana has Guardians of the Galaxy on the docket in the next couple of years. Carl Urban may be busy with The Boys for the better part of the next few years as well. While not yet announced, we've heard rumors that internally a third season of The Boys has been greenlit, and Urban has an option for a fourth. Then there is the matter of money. All contracts will have to be renewed, and how they are able to pay will be decided by how much money Bad Robot are able to raise from investors. Because like before, this story being put out there is but a part of the pitch to raise funding necessary to actually make the movie happen. The Hollywood Reporter also published a very investor-friendly piece emphasizing that expectations should be kept in check, but at the right budget levels, Star Trek can still be a very profitable franchise. So, will the investors bite this time? Many a Star Trek fan will receive Noah Hawley with open arms. He is a published novelist, and his TV credits are impressive. He has served as a writer and producer on Bones, but is most known for his work on Fargo and Legion, both of which have given him a lot of goodwill among fans, and rightfully so. He was even writing and directing a Doctor Doom solo movie for Fox, which caused a tremendous amount of excitement within the studio, though that fell apart in the Disney acquisition. Despite his TV credentials, however, potential investors may have issues with his actual film credentials. If it were to move forward, Star Trek IV would only be the second feature film he ever directed. His feature film directorial debut was with Lucy in the Sky starring Natalie Portman, which received negative reviews and harsh criticism for factual inaccuracies. Worse than that, it bombed in its limited release and never saw a wide release. For this reason, the numbers don't give the full picture. However, potential investors will be hard-pressed not to notice that Lucy in the Sky at first glance appears to have lost more than $26 million on a budget of $27 million. Even if Bad Robot are able to raise the money to actually make Noah Hawley's Star Trek IV, they have one more hurdle to overcome, and it's a major one. Paramount has to sign off on it. And from what we've heard, Paramount's new corporate owner wants nothing more to do with Bad Robot. On November 25th, Viacom and CBS announced that they expect the merger to go through on December 4th and begin trading as the reunited Viacom-CBS on December 5th. The majority shareholder is Sherry Redstone, daughter of Sumner Redstone, and from what we gather, she genuinely considers Star Trek to be a family heirloom. We have also heard that she is not a fan of what Bad Robot has done to Star Trek on film, what their offshoot Secret Hideout has done to Star Trek on TV, nor is she a fan of CBS All Access, which is the legacy of Les Moonves, whom she was most decidedly not a fan of. Furthermore, we have heard a rumor strongly suggesting that the deal between Paramount and Bad Robot expired on July 22nd of this year, as that marked the point where 3 years had passed since the release of Star Trek Beyond, and with no new movie being in production. If this is accurate, Bad Robot can still pitch new Star Trek movies to Paramount, and if Paramount were to give the green light, the deal would be back on. However, as of now, Paramount are no longer obligated to outsource development of Star Trek movies to Bad Robot. After the Viacom-CBS remerger on December 5th, the new corporation will have full control over the Star Trek movie rights. After that, they are free to move forward with whichever Star Trek movies they want, with or without Bad Robot producing it. They are still tied up with Secret Hideout for Star Trek on television, but for how long still remains to be seen. For now though, let us know how excited you are for Noah Hawley's Star Trek 4, and if you think it will actually end up getting made, in the comments.
I need intelligence data.
Where did he think he had this kind of latitude? November 21st, Trump slams the door on Gallagher's quixotic quest with the following tweet. The Navy will not be taking away warfighter and Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher's trident pin. This case was handled very badly from the beginning. Get back to business. So even through all this, Spencer still wasn't done. I don't know how much clearer it could be made, the president's intent on this. He'd been shot down already 3 times. The tweet on the 21st couldn't make things any clearer. He already had his order in hand. It had been confirmed to him 3 times that this was the way it was going to be. He writes, I recognize that the tweet revealed the president's intent, but I did not believe it to be an official order, chiefly because every action taken by the president in the case so far had either been a verbal or written command. So after all that, this guy was still trying to defy the order by waiting for a written document saying, hey, for the 4th time already, leave Gallagher alone. It was at that point that Secretary Mark Esper pulled the plug on Spencer and said, I want your letter of resignation. You see, Esper, unlike President Trump, once he realized his subordinate was engaging in an act of insubordination against him personally, he only needed the one time to tell the president he'd lost confidence in Spencer as his subordinate and intended to demand his resignation. That's how it's supposed to work. Once this guy, Esper, found out this guy was going behind his back and undermining the order, he's like, no, you're done. What Trump should have done a week and a half ago, the first time this guy undermined his orders. I can't think of an example of such public, persistent, and flagrant disobeying of a direct order of the President of the United States than this example. I mean, for this guy to either not realize he was being insubordinate, but somehow to acknowledge he was being insubordinate to his direct superior when he went around him, Esper, in the chain of command, it's cognitive dissonance. His superior, Esper, derives his authority from the president. How can he somehow be insubordinate to the defense secretary, but not see how that's also insubordinate to the president from whom the defense secretary receives his authority? You know, on whose orders he's acting. And to put the icing on the cake, go out and write an op-ed in the Washington Post to all but reveal, his perfidious acts to everyone. I'm telling you, these deep staters, they view themselves as heroes, even when they admit their wrongdoing. Somehow, because they're defying the bad orange man, they think this somehow absolves them of wrongdoing. This is how you got the Mueller investigation. This is how you got the Sally Yates thing at the beginning of the administration. It's almost to the point where you have to consider giving these people some kind of orientation training when they get these jobs to teach them that they have no independent authority and that they cannot ignore or thwart the lawful orders that come down their chains of command. It's that simple. That's all for this Your Realist. If you want to help the channel, do me a favor, hit like for this video, leave a comment below, or mash down on the subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel. You got to click on that notification bell beside it. Otherwise, if you don't put it on the all setting, you won't be keeping up with newer content. If you want to contribute directly to the channel and toss your hard-earned dollars into the tip jar, you can follow the links
Bei mir musst du nicht aufs Dach, nein. Bei mir gehst du quasi im Haus in den Dachboden, da wird es dann gekehrt und dann gehst du in den Keller, da wird es noch rausgenommen und dann, ja. Also bei mir beispielsweise ist das so. Praktisch. Für den Ding mit Sicherheit einfacher, für den Schornsteinfeger. Also noch 2 Lieder mit diesem Lied. Tanze dir die Seele aus dem Leib. Wie oft wird bei dir gekehrt? Normal, oder? 2-mal im Jahr? Anfang des Jahres und Ende im Jahr? Also quasi Winteranfang und Winterende, also 2-mal im Jahr.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know we have a merchandise store now over at teespring.com. There's shirts and hoodies and other odds and ends. There's a link in the description box. If you do end up ordering some gear, please send me some feedback on your purchase. Now, without further ado, let's get started. The holiday season is not just about spending quality time with friends and family. Now, according to Teen Vogue, it's about confronting your bigoted relatives. That's right, and not only that, but it's also about breaking the safe space your white relatives have created to openly discuss racist, transphobic, queer antagonistic, misogynistic, and general public issues. In the magazine's recent column, Jen Jackson argued that it's our responsibility to change our bigoted relatives this holiday season. Some white people who see themselves as non-racist just play nice instead of clapping back directly at these problematic family members this year. Consider doing something different, Jackson argues. Further, she explains, although discriminatory laws have been deemed unconstitutional, yet people are still quietly participating in acts of segregation. They continue to isolate themselves from non-white populations through white flight and comprise their social groups of only other white people. Quote, neighborhood segregation means that many white Americans don't see many non-white people as members of their community, and certainly not their next-door neighbors, Jackson blathers on. The holiday meal will be the social justice warriors' ground zero, ending white privilege. It's time to mobilize. Quote, quietly forking away at your yams and green beans while Aunt Sue spews hate-filled messages about black people, immigrants, or gender non-conforming people won't do anything to change the status quo, Jackson wrote. Quote, it's just another way of allowing these toxic ideas and beliefs to permeate throughout generations and social networks every day. How about stepping up, doing something about it? Consistent with their latest column, the magazine published a glowing piece on Karl Marx earlier this year. They introduced him to readers, mostly young girls, as the man, the meme, the legend, the communist. Speaking of academic experts on the subject of Marxist theory, it was clear that Teen Vogue hoped to inspire the next proletariat overthrow of the bourgeoisie class. As the legions of self-hating, non-appreciative little elitist brats constantly attack the Western society that has given them the luxuries they so ignorantly take for granted, the freedoms to spew their nonsense ad hominem to anyone that acknowledges their existence, one wonders, what would those overindulged, clueless little monsters actually be thankful for? Well, luckily, I found just the article to answer that question. Courtesy of the Babylon Bee, in honor of Thanksgiving weekend, the nation's progressives have begun to give thanks that they have so much to be angry and offended about this year. Quote, thank you unspecified deity, who may or may not exist, for giving us so much stuff to be outraged about, said Stacy Walden, 42 of Portland, as she prepared her vegan kale-wrapped turkey. Quote, I'm truly humbled that you've blessed me with the Trump presidency, patriarchy, the laws of economics, and biological facts to rage against. Every year it's important to pause and recognize how much we actually have to be angry about. A lot of people struggle with gratitude, but I'm deeply thankful that the universe has given us a veritable cornucopia of things to be mad about, agreed Mary Wallace, 27, New York. Quote, I know that I come from a place of privilege. When I think about those poor people who have absolutely nothing to be mad about, I utter a prayer of thanks, or whatever. Many of these deranged progressives partake in an annual tradition of writing down all the things they're thankful to be mad about. Here's an example of one of their typical Thanksgiving hate lists. First and foremost, white people, then pronouns, personal responsibility, satire that does not affirm their viewpoint, billionaires, old tweets, 32-ounce sodas, plastic straws, people who hold steady jobs, appropriating others' culture, and then of course excluding others' cultures, Bush, Obama, Trump, babies, Kanye West, last but not least, America. Just imagine what that list is going to look like next year. Alrighty folks, that's about it for that one. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm going to head out and do a little people watching this morning. I guess I just find Black Friday fascinating. I don't usually buy much more. I just enjoy watching the herds of freaks gathering relentlessly. I guess there's just something about seeing that ridiculous look of accomplishment on a 400-pound woman's face in Walmart as she saves $5.50 on the latest Ninja digital air fryer that she no doubt will use once while posting a wonderful video on her Facebook page. God help us all. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everybody for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.
Enemy battleships detected. The enemy are winning.
All stations reporting the position of a strategic target.
It's bad out there. Say, what's in this drink? Absolutely
Hang in there.
cold out
Help is
there.
on the way.
I wish I knew how.
Your eyes are like stars
to
right
break
now.
this spell.
Well, the holidays are approaching again, so it's time for what has become a new annual ritual. People in Brooklyn fretting over the song Baby It's Cold Outside. This Christmas, in response to those deep concerns, songwriter John Legend is teaming up with Kelly Clarkson to release a new version of the duet. Their version includes lyrics like, I can call you a ride, and the abortion-affirming, it's your body, it's your choice. Sure to be a new holiday classic. Author and columnist Mark Stein is also a fairly renowned musicologist, and so we thought we'd solicit his opinion on this. Are you getting the album, Mark?
No, I don't think I will be. It's not enough that our age can't create anything new. We also have to destroy everything that went before us. And this is an appalling act of vandalism on a great song by a great songwriter, Frank Lesser. I think one of the reasons this is happening, Tucker, is because basically lame, chemistry-free celebrity duets are about the only thing propping up the music industry these days, and there aren't a lot of seasonal duets, so everybody does this. CeeLo Green and Christina Aguilera, Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, Adam Schiff and Ilhan Omar have just done a great version. But the point about this, song is it's flirtation on both parts. And one of the really hideous things about the last 10 years or so is that social media has made everyone incredibly literal. And so we cannot actually understand something where, as you saw with Ricardo Montalban and Esther Williams just now, they're actually playing the subtext. They're actually saying we're singing certain words, but underneath we are attracted to each other. And that concept is too mind-bogglingly complex for our bone-crushingly literal generation. And it is one reason why, as a very famous songwriter was complaining to me just a couple of months back, that if you look at, say, something like Santa Baby, every version other than Eartha Kitt's, contemporary singers doing standards, they actually often miss the point of these things, as they have done on a nuclear scale with Baby It's Cold Outside.
What a fascinating analysis, and it seems right to me what you just said. So you think that social media and basically our digital immersion, that's what's driving this?
I would say so, because, for example, if you look at what John Legend's written, I mean, do you really want to be singing a love duet in which, for a start, Esther and Ricardo Montalban, they're singing the song because they're attracted to each other.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't spend 3 minutes singing back and forth to each other. The minute John Legend says, instead of singing Baby It's Cold Outside, he says, I can call you a ride. Because he can't come up with, I guess because he can't come up with a rhyme for I can call you an Uber. That's beyond him. So the minute you say I really can't stay, oh, no problem, I totally respect that, I'll call you an Uber. The song's over. Where are you going to go? That's not material to sing about, but we have reached such a stage of bone-crushing literalism. And you know the one other thing about this, Tucker, Saeed Katoub, he was exposed to this song in Greeley, Colorado in 1949. He went back to Egypt and became the leading force behind the Muslim Brotherhood because of Baby It's Cold Outside. The woke left has reached the same stage, same attitude to Baby It's Cold Outside as the Muslim Brotherhood. They've actually reached the same point on the continuum.
And they don't even believe in God. They don't even have a good excuse for it.
No,
it's sad. Mark Stein, great, so smart. Great to see you tonight. Thank you, as always.
I really can't stay, Tucker. Put some records on while I pour.
All stations reporting the position of a strategic target. Help! Help!
about to win. The enemy's about to win.
Before we get started, I wanted to let everyone
Welcome back to New Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi marked the then conclusion to an all-time greatest film trilogy that would actually be a never-ending stream of films, series, games, and droid-building workshops at Disneyland. Despite its divisive elements, Return of the Jedi remains a sacred installment to the franchise. Perhaps because, as the most family-friendly of the original trilogy, it was really the Star Wars film many of us saw first as kids. Ewoks got us in the door, which is kind of like the Minions being your gateway to the deeper complex mythology of Gru in the Despicable Me saga. There's a lot there. Be sure to check out my past breakdowns of A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, but now let us point out all the interesting visual details and Easter eggs that make Return of the Jedi such a classic. The opening crawl reveals the title, Return of the Jedi. Originally, George Lucas and co-writer Larry Kasdan wanted to title it Revenge of the Jedi, but Lucas argued that revenge kind of went against the Jedi code. And as an Arthurian fantasy trilogy modeled partly on Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy, Return of the made for a fitting title of the third. The opening words of the crawl are Luke Skywalker has returned, apparently identifying Luke as the returning Jedi of the title, but this of course is a misdirect. Many Star Wars films possess titles that seem to refer to one thing at the start of the film but actually refer to another, and Return of the Jedi refers not to Luke, but to his father Anakin Skywalker, making this story one of redemption. After collaborating with Irving Kershner for Empire, George Lucas commissioned for Return of the Jedi director Richard Marquand, who described Lucas's dominating presence and vision on set as like trying to direct King Lear with Shakespeare in the next room. As a result, Return of the Jedi returns from the character development of Empire to the things George Lucas has been more interested in, world building and Campbellian symbolism. Lucas was a proponent of the storytelling philosophy of Joseph Campbell, which states that all heroes of mythology go on cyclical journeys that lead them to return to their origin point, having undergone a transformation. As a film, Return of the Jedi does this by repeating several of the story beats of A New Hope. Once again, the Empire is building a Death Star. Once again, Luke finds himself on Tatooine, but in both cases, the game is the same, but the players have changed. The film begins with a parallel image to the opening of A New Hope, a Star Destroyer wedging down into frame with a true returning Jedi of this film, Darth Vader. Vader presses Moff Jerjerrod to move even faster to complete this second Death Star, and I love how Jerjerrod gulps as Vader approaches, likely having heard all the stories about all the other Imperial officers Vader force-choked to death. So why this hurry? Well, if you think about it, the Emperor's political strategy depends on having the Death Star as an unmatched apocalyptic deterrent, maintaining order through fear. When the rebels destroyed the first in the Battle of Yavin, the Emperor's symbolic power was threatened. So the fragility of that fear signals a weakness in the Emperor that Luke can later exploit. R2-D2 and C-3PO arrive at the palace of Jabba the Hutt. Originally in 1983, this was the first time audiences saw Jabba in the flesh. So much flesh, despite the CGI version of him that